It's funny. I mean, you know how I've talked about this, how I act during a game, an intense game, if I'm invested. Once I'm checked out, I sit there like a sort of I would say like cranky ghost if they're already down 2-0 or 3-0 and it's all over, I'd probably just sit there just angrily.
Right.
But when I'm invested, there's there's stomping around, there's jumping over the couch for the pick swap, there's all that stuff. And Alyssa gets it because she's a sport fan, but there's a threshold that you hit where it's like, hey, the neighbors, like, hey, come on,
can you fucking chill out? Like, one of those.
Of course, rightfully so. Which my parents have and roommates and now Alyssa have been saying to me all my life, and it's funny to hear Alyssa cross that threshold.
Yep.
And for me to be like, hey, I don't even know how to do it. Hey, sorry, you should. It's a little, it's all right. It's game 5. You're up 3-1. Like, me telling someone to calm down is very rich. But she was into it last night. She thought they were going to close it out. We had some celebratory things ready to go, and we had to put it away. So
I guess my question is, with LeBron turning in about as good a game as he can, and AD toward the end of the game. Now, when he was walking to the locker room, he looked fine, but his gait looked normal. But in that last 7 minutes of the game, when he was running up the court, he was clearly hobbled by the foot.
For sure.
I'm trying to put myself in the place of a Lakers fan at this point. If I were a Lakers fan, I would be scared to death. Like, how does she feel right now? Is she so confident, or is it a... I
would say not confident, just like sense of urgency, pretty strong. Yeah. Doesn't want this to get to 7. But they're good. They're a good team, and Duncan Robinson was going to get hot eventually, and he had a great game. I think there were some substitution patterns that she wasn't happy with last night. We root for Danny. We're Danny Green people. I'd say the Lakers fans at large are not at all, because he didn't have a great season.
So I've seen that from, I just discovered last night, Halsey, the singer, has like a basketball-only Twitter, and she's a Lakers fan. And I could tell from her Twitter that the Danny Green thing was not like, he's not beloved with the Lakers fans.
He's
right?
not.
Yeah.
He's not. Yeah. It's tough. I mean, look, it's. I think it's very Covington-esque, right? Like, not consistent. Yeah. But, like, you're shooting 38% from 3. It's like, well, okay.
You're going to miss 62 out of 100. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't throw out choke all the time, but when you hit the front of the rim on a wide open shot, it feels like a choke.
No, I mean, I think the pass obviously was a tough pass for LeBron to make, and he got it there. But when you reach down and then have to come back up with it, it changes it. He's got to make that shot, of course. But like sometimes you miss, and he had it. It was online. If you like airballed it, then I think he pulled the string so much, then it's like, all right, well, that was not even close. But you just sometimes you miss, like that happens.
Yeah.
Markieff. Doing whatever he did with it after the fact, I think is a little more inexplicable. Also, Markieff just had a bad game. Like, he didn't do anything positive. He had no points. He was turning the ball over a lot. I have not been a Kuzma guy like throughout his career, but I've been very impressed with Kuzma over the course of this season and into the playoffs. Just like his movement off ball, I think his defense has improved a lot.
His movement off ball and in fast breaks, he's a good finisher. He's a good cutter, like you say, and he always seems to, when LeBron drives, he seems to be in the right place to get the shot almost every time, I would say.
And so, and that would have been, I would have had Kuzma in for some of those moments. Markieff's been great for most of the playoffs and has given them a jolt of like, kind of, because AD doesn't want to play the 5, and so Markieff can like kind of help that a little bit. It's not like AD's the only big guy on the court, and he has been hitting shots. But it's tough. It's tough to lose a LeBron game like that and a KCP game like that. Rondo didn't give them anything. The Heat are good, man. They're good. I called Lakers in 6 prior to the series. I think the Lakers will close it out. if AD's healthy, then I think it's going to be over. But I mean, hell of a performance from our guy Jimmy Butler.
Yep.
They're really good. I mean, it shows you what, like, he hit a couple threes last night. Obviously he's not excited about taking them, but it shows you what having Jimmy and Bam, like we talked about it last podcast, like LeBron and AD is a reasonable, if you squint, facsimile of Embiid and Simmons, right? Of if you can really convince
squint.
Yourself.
Yeah.
If you convince yourself as the Sixers, like, hey, they have the same kind of thing, we can do that. So we were close. Plus, like, playing Dwight and JaVale a lot of minutes. But the Heat kind of had the same thing with Jimmy and Bam, as is like two, like, defensive-minded but, like, offensive fulcrums that you want with the ball in their hands and then kicking out to shooters, passing to cutters, all that stuff. That's obviously not exact, but that kind of thing. Like, these Jimmy and Bam are not excellent shooters that you want, pulling up from everywhere. But because you have those guys around them that are creating movement, which is what Doc talked about in his press conference, like starting movement, like not forcing guys to be who they're not. It's just like the Sixers didn't have those players that could do anything around them. It was like, okay, we got Ben and Embiid, and they're the fulcrums, and we're passing the ball. And then everybody else, we want guys that could just, like, play in 1996 and just, like, face up and take a 16-foot jumper with 3 seconds left on the shot clock. It just felt like that's the whole team. And to not have, Korkmaz is the only shooter on the team, really.
Oh,
and, like,
my God, it's so
they pulled
sad.
Shake out of their ass. It was like, the chips metaphor that I went with last time, I think is still apt. It's just like, how do they have so many chips and, like, very few vegetables? Like, give me some fucking balance, for God's sakes.
And it does show you too what the just as a Ben thing, what if the guy who has the ball all the time can hit a three now and then, like both guys last night. Jimmy hit 2 of them, I think, and one of them was simply because the guy guarding him, and it might have been AD, I forget who it was, just like was playing so far off, he just had time to set up, and LeBron obviously has become a pretty decent 3-point shooter, but
totally.
There's
just
that too.
Willingness to take the shot, it matters. And if you hit one, then all of a sudden they're playing you, and then the drive gets easier. And then, you got to exploit that with dribble handoffs and stuff.
What's the difference between Jimmy and being Bam? Like what Ben Simmons is going to be. If now obviously AD can hit threes, and Bam looks like he can shoot. He's got a nice soft jumper and free throw, so I think he'll eventually be able to do it.